Hey, good evening. The person who posted a comment regarding why he accepted the money and all that, I get your point, absolutely. And yes, we all have this discipline at least. But most times, the money can be really tempting. And then, having a little background check on the person you're collecting it from can actually make you lose guard and forget your manners to an extent, although not everybody. Maybe he was praying for his destiny helpers just like us, and then being met with such opportunity, at least from an old-time friend whom he knew his background and wealth. If I was to throw in a little bit of observation in this story, I would say maybe he lost his actual thinking from the first time he accepted the money, the cash. I also know of a case whereby a particular businessman who had a huge supermarket some time ago in this Imo state, a friend of his, so-called friend, gave him particular cash to hold. He used that cash that he was asked to keep in his business, and within 2 months, his business collapsed to nothing. Now, how he found out was during the search for solution, he went to so many places, so many native doctors, so many pastors, and they all indicated a particular time he took a certain amount of money from someone just to help the person save or keep. He invested it in his business, and that was where his downfall began. Up till today, he cannot even boast of a vehicle. When he confronted his friend told him to his face that he didn't deserve the fame he got from his supermarket that had so many branches. Now, to the story. Throughout that week, I had finally signed into that union I knew nothing about. I had the worst dreams of my entire life. Most times, I would even have up to 3 dreams in one afternoon. Anytime I mistakenly close my eyes to just nap, it would be chaotic. I had a dream one afternoon. In that dream, a lot of people were shaving off the pubic hair on my body. Each time I struggled, it was as though I was wasting my time. When they were done shaving me, a woman surfaced. Now, this woman had just one eye. I tried screaming my lungs out, but it was useless. She came on me and did the crusade people would do in the inner room of sin. Everything she did, I watched. I didn't even participate. She did everything herself. And when she was done, the fluid from my body, she rubbed it all over my face and walked away. One of the men with the beetle eyes poured a red fluid that had the worst smell all over me. I looked in shock, but I was helpless. Every time I had a horrible dream, my peace would go further from me. Each time my friend would call, I wouldn't even be sure if he was calling to know if I was alive or if he actually knew what was happening, but was checking on me to know if maybe I had plans of confiding in someone else. Initially, I took the care as just a brother looking after a brother, but it got so obvious that he was onto my life and I had to confront him. Aside the chicken and the food I used the money in buying, I never touched the money, because the more I tried and the more I imagined using the money to solve my problem, the more the dreams multiplied and intensified. I went to his place the following week. Already I had lost a lot of weight. I went to his place. I knocked at his gate. His gate man opened and allowed me in. A part of me told me that he was aware I was in his compound, because immediately I came into the parlor, like the first time I came into his compound, he came downstairs. So when he looked at me, he removed his eye as though he was avoiding eye contact. Now, if you're living with an autistic person, or you have an autistic spouse or a best friend or a close friend, I want you to know that if they are the owner of that house, they don't even need to be the owner, but as long as they've established that strong foundation in that place you're living, the house itself is alive, and the house is an informant to anything that happens within. Most times, there are ways in which you would know if the house is alive. Maybe you would be in the dream, and as you're sleeping, you look next to you, you would see a very huge mirror. That is one sign. Another sign is if you were alone in that house or in the room, you would sense presence as a human being. Yes, you can be alert enough to sense presence, to sense beings you cannot see in that house. When you're done making your call, everything happening from the call to the people you communicate with, to what you do, to what you say out loud, they would all, that is the Ossetic people, would be aware. That's why most times I encourage people, anytime you're about to go into details about your life in prayers, it is advisable you go deeply in tongues. Or there would be a way you would mumble it that even the person next to you would not be able to catch what exactly you're saying while praying. Now permit me to skip to the full initiation and the time in which he started building and erecting his buildings around Nigeria. Now, according to Stanley, he said he had no idea he was going through any process of initiation, and he didn't even know it was the person he called his friend that introduced him to this doom without his knowledge. He also asked that I do not disclose more on the initiation process and also some dreams that were a little bit severe. I erected a lot of buildings, and I also erected a lot of hostels. I would focus my hostels on being same gender. Now, the reason for that was to spike the population in homosexuality. I made my buildings quite affordable for the rich and for the poor. I also had estates too. The number one reason in my mind for having all these buildings wasn't for charity, neither was it to help the society. It was so that it would be easier for me to bring sacrificial people for the Ossetic company. Ossetic company meaning the union I belonged to. The first thing you would notice immediately you rent any of my apartments would be an instant dwindling in your income. You would experience setback. You would experience confusion. You would experience a state in which in your entire life you would not believe you would hit that level of suffering.